So I've been playing around with AI and I wanted to bring it into the Webflow universe for you as a Webflow creator to be able to use it on your website. We are going to use AI to respond to our users sending feedback through a form directly on the page, right? And we're gonna use Make, formerly known as Integromat, to glue those together, right? So user comes in, sends his feedback into the Webflow form. I'm gonna send that feedback to Make, which is going to send it to OpenAI's API, which is going to respond with an answer based on the feedback of the user, considering all the details, right? The name, the email address, the feedback. And then we're going to send that information back to the screen of the user using a webhook to be able to thank him for his feedback and give a very individual response, right? I think that's actually quite interesting and quite useful, especially if you're into lead nurturing, right? Anything that has to do with e-commerce, anything where money and conversion rates are important. So let's jump straight in. So just to give you a quick demonstration, right? I've got this newsletter sign up form, right? Where people can sign up. Then I'll usually send them to this thank you page, thanking them for signing up, right? In some cases, people have feedback, questions, or just want to talk to me, really, right? So I created this feedback form where you can put in your name, your email address, and some feedback. And we're gonna just try to do this right now. So my name is Tommy. My email is gonna be tom@tom.com. My feedback is gonna be, hey Marvin.
Thanks a lot for your content. I just subscribed to your YouTube channel. I'd love to know where I can find your Notion templates.
Thanks. I'm gonna send that through. We're gonna see a little loading screen. And then it says, thank you, Tommy. Hi, Tommy, Marvin here. I truly appreciate your support and I'm glad you find my content helpful. You can find my Notion templates in the resources section on web2theflow.com. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Isn't that awesome? So the user had feedback and I was able to help him right on the spot. And not only that, I still collected his feedback, right? So I can now find the feedback right here. Hey Marvin, thanks a lot for your content, blah, blah, blah. And I've got his name, I've got his email address, and I collected the date, right? So that's what we're going to build today. That was just a quick overview. Let's get started. Hey guys, I just wanted you to know that I am right now starting to offer these services to my clients as well. So I am looking for 2 or 3 testimonial use cases. So if you're interested in one of those automations, let me know. You can find the link to my contact details on the website. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. For this tutorial, we are going to use Make. Make is actually one of my favorite tools when it comes to automating stuff. I've been using it for, I don't know, 2.5 years or so. It's been great. It's I would say the main competitor to Zapier. But in my humble opinion, it is actually Zapier on steroids because you have so much more control over the flows. You can go multi-path as well. And I just prefer the UI, right? So you can see the flows and how the data is actually moving from one pod to the next. And they've got a free tier. So you can start using it for free. The link is in the description. Feel free to use it. If you have an interesting use case, for some fancy automations, contact me, right? I'm open to hearing any cool ideas, and happy to help you create your automation. So let's jump into it. I am going to create a new scenario, and how you could go about it is you just click on the plus sign and search for Webflow, right? So you have a lot of options using Webflow. You could, for example, just watch events. But I found it to be more difficult to go that route, actually. So instead, what I recommend you to do is use a webhook, right? And I am going to use a custom webhook. And you can just click on add, and it's going to create a webhook. And then you have that address right here, and you can use it, right? So as soon as you send a request to that URL, it's going to receive that.
Ich habe dich leider gerade nicht verstanden.
Yeah, I didn't talk to Siri. Yeah, we're going to send a request to that URL, so you're just going to copy it. But okay, first, maybe you need to understand how this actually works. So when the user types in something into Webflow, we are not going to use Webflow to send that information. Instead, we are going to use code to send that response to the webhook, right? So we need to embed some code into Webflow. And for me, honestly, the easiest way is to just go ahead and write the code, right? But since I know not everyone who uses Webflow is a coder as well, we are going to use ChatGPT for it. I am pretty sure you're going to have access to it. So let's inspect this form. If you go into the inspector, you can easily find the whole code for the form. I'm going to click on edit as HTML, and I'm going to simply copy that code, right? Now I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and for this I'm going to use ChatGPT 4. I'm going to put it into English, and let's type in.
I want to create a code snippet in JavaScript, right? Which is going to prevent the default action of the form, and instead send the data to the webhook. Here is the
form. I'm going to paste in that form, and here is the webhook, right? And then you're just going to go back, take that webhook, and paste it in. Boom. Let's see what we get. ChatGPT is actually writing the code right here on the spot. Very interesting stuff. So it's taking the email form and adds an event listener to it. As soon as it's submitted, it prevents the default action, which means that it's not going to send the data the usual way, right? So Webflow usually just sends an email to your admin email address. It's going to prevent that. And then it's going to take the form data and puts it into a variable. It's going to send a post request to the hook we just defined with the form data. Then it's going to wait for a response and just going to console log the data, right? If there's an error, it's going to console log the error. But we're not going to stop here, because I actually want the response to go into this area, right? So I'm gonna inspect it, and I have been giving this div an ID of result, right? So you can just go into Webflow, right? Go on your element, and give it a ID, right? Whatever ID it is. You can now go to ChatGPT and write
something like, additionally, I want to display the response text in a div with the ID result. Right?
So again, it's gonna write that script for me. Let's see if it actually understood my prompt. Sending the data, then response, if okay. Document, get element, result, right? Text content, JSON, yeah. Okay, so now, as soon as we are fetching back the response, it's gonna take that response and puts it into our result placeholder, right? Easy. So now I could actually go ahead and take that script down here, right? Put it on my website into embed element and save it. So, but I'm not going to do that because I already prepared something for my individual use case. I don't know what you are going to do with it, but I am going to provide you exactly the code that I've been using down in the description, right? So let's walk through this real quick. So it's getting the form, it's getting the heading. Actually, what I did is I added a loading element, right? So that was the loading circle you just saw. The way I did it is, you can see it right here. It's just a Lottie. So you can click here, go to Lottie animation, put that in, and then you could go to a place like lottiefiles.com, search for a loading animation, and just grab one, right? I think this was the one I've been using. I just changed the color a little bit. Then you can go ahead and download the Lottie JSON. And the Lottie JSON you just paste into Webflow, into your Lottie element, and that's it, right? Then you can go ahead and change it to loop. So check that box here, so it always plays, and you can play around with the duration if you want. The code actually takes that element and makes sure it's not visible in the beginning, right? So it displays it to none, and then it's starting with the event listener for the form actually. So prevent default, it's getting all the values. Then as soon as the submit button is pressed, it's gonna hide the form. It's gonna display the loading element, right? The little loading screen. And it's gonna change the heading to thank you name, right? That's the heading I've been using for that. So you can do that. I think it's pretty cool actually. And then I put all the data into one variable, right? So name, and that's a JSON variable. So now I'm gonna send that to my webhook using the data I've been defining, and I'm gonna wait for the response. As soon as I got the response, I'm gonna console log it just to make sure that I can see it. I'm gonna look out for the result element, and if I find the result element, that's just a security thing, so the script doesn't break. If I find it, I'm gonna display the body of my response, and I'm gonna hide the loading animation, right? If it doesn't work, just show me the error and a little catch in here, right? So that's pretty much it. I prepared this script using ChatGPT as well. I just fine-tuned it. So let's save that and publish it, and then we're good to go, right? So this is how it should look then. We don't see the loading element, but if I go into the code, you can actually see the loading element is here. It's just not displayed. So if I change that to block, you can see it. Easy, right? So now that we've got the code, we've got the webhook, we can send our actual data into the webhook, right? So what I would do is I would click on redetermine data structure. So it's waiting for something to be sent through. Then I would go into my form and send some data. And then the webhook and Make is going to know how your data is going to look like in the future, and you can use those variables from the data, right? So how this looks is something like this. So I'm going to click here on redetermine data structure. I'm going to send something through. Tom at tom.com. Hey, this is a message. I'm not a robot. Send this through. And now you can see it got accepted, which means that the webhook is accepting the post request, right? So if you go back, we can now see successfully determined. And now we know if we go into the next one, we can see the variables, right? So we can see, okay, we've got feedback, we've got email, we've got name, we've got a header, right? So that's now the stuff we can use. So I would go ahead and send this through to OpenAI, right? And if you do not have an OpenAI account yet, I recommend you to create one. This is needed for this to work, right? So you can click on add and you can find your OpenAI key when you copy that link and open that web page. So in order to sign up for OpenAI, you just go to OpenAI and click on sign up. And then you're gonna be asked a couple of questions. You're gonna insert your credit card to be able to pay those prompts and requests and completions, right? The way this looks is, it's not that expensive, right? So it's really cheap. I've been using it a bit. This is from today. So I don't know. I've sent maybe 15 requests today and I am paying $3, which is not a lot, right? Down here you can find your API keys. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so you got your OpenAI account. You put in your API key, you put in your organization ID, which you can find down here, and you're good to go. Now, what we want to do is actually create a chat completion, right? Why? Because we're going to be able to use GPT-4. GPT-4, when it comes to answering user requests and feedback and stuff, it's quite important to be able to make logic work, right? To understand the request properly. I would recommend GPT 3.5 for like really easy and for requests and prompts that are going to be always the same, basically. But here, with a feedback form, I don't know what the user is going to type in. So I want the AI to be able to understand what's been put in there correctly. And I just made, GPT-4 just gave me better responses all over. All right. So now you can add a message, and I would say you start with a system prompt, which means that you're gonna just tell the AI how to work here, and how to understand the following conversation, right? So you can type something like,
You're Marvin Aziz, the owner of Web2Flow.com and its YouTube channel.
the users, and you're gonna type in all the information you basically have, right? So you can type in, oh, my user is gonna sign up for a newsletter and land on that landing page, on that thank you page. Then some users are interested in giving feedback or have questions, right? You as an AI are going to answer those questions to the best of your ability. And that's actually quite important. If you don't have an answer to the question of the user, just say that Marvin is going to get back to you as soon as possible. That's the simple prompt. And I can show you what I've built in here, right? You're a helpful assistant, name, which is the name of the user sending the feedback, filled in a feedback form from web2theflow.com, a website for freelancers, blah, blah, blah. Name, in this case Tommy, is writing from, and I've put in the header value, this one right here. So the country where he's sending the feedback from might be helpful for the request, right? Your goal is to write a response on the feedback, a response based on the feedback in the name of Marvin, the website owner. Explain your gratitude for the feedback and try to help if possible. If you do not know the answer to a question, let them know that I will get back to them as soon as possible. Write no more than 4 sentences, right? Because I want to have the answer real quick. So the next item is going to be a user role, and the prompt is going to be, here's the feedback message from Tom, for example. Hey Marvin, thanks for your content. Where can I find the Notion templates? And then write a short response thanking for the feedback, right? I'm going to put in a max of 2,000 tokens, which is going to be more than enough for 4 sentences, right? Because our input is quite short as well. And I put the temperature to 0.8, which means that it's going to be limited in creativity, right? So, but you can play around with it. Maybe try a 0.4 or 0.7, even a 0.9. But yeah, that's pretty much all that we need. Then, what did we just say, right? We sent that information to Make. We have that prompt ready. Then what needs to happen? We basically need to send that information through Make back to Webflow. How does that work? We've got a webhook right here. And we're going to use a webhook response right here, right? So you basically can click on webhooks and then webhook response, right? So let's look into the prepared one, status code 200, which just means that it's accepted. The body, right? So I'm just gonna go into the choices of OpenAI, open up the message, and then I'm gonna click on content. And that's what we're gonna send back to Webflow. The content type is gonna be application JSON. Click on OK. And this right here is already gonna send back the information to Webflow, right? So that we can see the response right here. But I wanted to go another step just to show you that really anything is possible here, right? So after sending the response back to the user, he's already happy. I'm going to send that information through to Google Sheets, right? So what I did right here is I connected my Google Sheets account, my Google account. I have set up a spreadsheet, right? A GPT test. I have to choose the sheet name, which is feedback, right? You can see it right here, feedback. And then I'm gonna, I've created headers as well. So feedback, name, email, date. And in there, I'm just gonna say, okay, add a row, right? So the actual element is actual Google Sheets. You're gonna open that and you're gonna add a row, right? And then you're gonna choose your spreadsheet and so forth. So we got feedback in there, we got the name, we got the email, we got a created date, which I simply take from OpenAI. I think it's right here, right? So just so that I know when the feedback was sent. And that's pretty much it. So immediately, as you can see here, as soon as the user sends the feedback, it's gonna come into this webhook, it's gonna send it over to OpenAI, which is gonna respond with an answer based on our prompt, right? So the prompt here is the important part. Make sure to put some brain work into this prompt because it can vary a lot, right? So that response is gonna go back to the webhook response into Webflow. The user is gonna see it, be happy, right? Hopefully he's been helped right on the spot. And then we send everything over to Google Sheets. What we could actually do as well is add something else to it, the response, right? So I'm just going to rename that column to AI response so that we always know what the user already saw. Might be important, right? So now we can actually play this, right? So I just started you don't have to do this, by the way. You just can turn it on and it works. But I manually started it to show you how the data comes through, right? So if I open this side by side, I'm simply gonna type in, okay, who's in today? It's Ben at ben.com, right? Hey Marv, it's been a pleasure subscribing to your YouTube channel. Where can I find your Notion templates? Also, I'd be interested in finding out more about your service office. Thanks. Let's send this through. Now you can see the data came in, OpenAI responded, the webhook sent the information back. We got the message here. Thank you, Ben. Hi, Ben. Thank you for your kind words and for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I appreciate your interest in my Notion templates and service offerings. I'll get back to you as soon as possible with more information on both topics. Cheers, Marvin. What a great answer. And the user is going to be happy because he knows, oh, well, he took the time to actually, no, people are going to guess that this is automatically created because I'm not obviously able to respond to all messages immediately. But also we sent that data through to Google Sheets. And if you click on those little one signs over there, which means this is one operations, by the way, you can see all the data that came in and all the data that went out, right? So it updated a couple of sheets, one sheet with a bit of data. And now we have everything in here. Here's the feedback, the name, the date, email, and also the response, which is awesome. So just imagine how much you can do with those kinds of automations. And I'm here to tell you, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This thing right here is so powerful. I have so many ideas on how to implement it into big businesses. Please hook me up. Let me know if you're interested in some of those services, because it's actually really fun building them for me and for clients as well. So that's basically it. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments if you learned something today, and if you're interested, just go ahead and go to the website webtotoflow.com, fill out the form, and let me know. All right, see you in the next one.